Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon are locked in a trillion-dollar arms race. They're spending vast fortunes building the infrastructure required for modern artificial intelligence. But the outcome of this specific competition hardly matters. Regardless of who wins the consumer race, one company controls 80% of the underlying global hardware. Every move these giants make passes through Nvidia's toll booth. In a single 90-day window last quarter, that toll booth generated $62.3 billion in revenue. Out of every $100 that comes in, Nvidia keeps 75 as profit before paying a single employee or a dollar of rent. The cloud providers building our digital future are now entirely dependent on a company that began by sketching graphics chips on Denny's napkins. Before the trillion-dollar valuations, Jensen Huang had exactly 30 days of payroll left. Half his staff was let go, and his company faced erasure. Nvidia built their first 2 chips to render 3D shapes using quadrilaterals. Then, Microsoft released an industry-standard API built exclusively around triangles. In an instant, Nvidia's hardware architecture was obsolete, and crucial hardware partners like Sega walked away. Staring down a bankrupt balance sheet, Huang decided to abandon everything they had built. He took the remaining cash and betted on designing the most ambitious graphics chip ever attempted, the Riva 128. It sold 1 million units in 4 months. Surviving that crisis cemented a ruthless operating philosophy. To stay alive, you have to be willing to tear down your own work and move faster than the hardware market shifts. As computers became faster in the 1990s, they hit a severe bottleneck. Drawing complex 3D environments required the system to calculate the color and shadow of millions of pixels on the screen at exactly the same time. The central processing unit handled tasks sequentially. If you needed to paint a massive football stadium, relying on a CPU was like hiring one brilliant painter. He works efficiently, but he can still only paint one seat at a time. Nvidia's GPU took a different approach. Instead of the single expert, they hired 10,000 average painters to cover the geometry simultaneously. This parallel math for rendering pixels is the exact same math required to train modern artificial intelligence models. Intel engineers believed their sequential processors would eventually run fast enough to handle graphics. They spent a decade optimizing a horse, ignoring the parallel rocket ship Nvidia was constructing right under them. In 2006, Nvidia made a decision that caused their profit margins to collapse and provoked open hostility from Wall Street. They launched CUDA. CUDA was a translation layer. It allowed researchers to bypass graphics protocols and talk directly to the GPU using standard coding languages like C++. A gaming chip could now be used as a cheap, general-purpose supercomputer. Making this work required Huang to redesign every single chip on Nvidia's roadmap to be CUDA compatible. He poured billions into a software ecosystem that no one in the commercial market was asking for. 6 years later, a team working under Geoffrey Hinton submitted a computer vision model called AlexNet. Training this model on standard CPUs would have taken months. Instead, they bought off-the-shelf Nvidia gaming GPUs, rewrote their code using CUDA, and trained the model in days. For over half a decade, Nvidia had been embedding CUDA into university research labs. When the AI boom arrived, the entire scientific community realized their workflows were locked inside a software language that only ran on Nvidia silicon. In August 2016, Huang walked into the office of a young, underfunded nonprofit startup. He handed them a small black box, the world's first AI supercomputer compressed into a single server. That startup was OpenAI. That hardware processed the research that eventually became ChatGPT. When it reached 100 million users in 60 days, every major cloud provider realized AI had shifted from a laboratory experiment to the core of their business model, creating a vertical wall of demand. As models grew, individual chip speed mattered less than how fast tens of thousands of chips could communicate. Nvidia developed proprietary interconnects like NVLink to build private data highways and acquired startups like Grok to own the entire communication architecture. Huang recently declared that data centers that just store information are dead. He introduced the Rubin platform as the foundation for AI factories, facilities designed solely to manufacture intelligence in the form of digital tokens. Deploying the Rubin platform requires massive physical overhauls. Because these racks generate extreme heat, there is no air cooling option. Hyperscalers must spend hundreds of millions on liquid plumbing and floor reinforcements just to host the hardware. Nvidia stopped selling individual components. They sell a closed cognitive architecture. And because buyers have no alternative, Nvidia dictates the terms, resulting in the math that lets them keep $75 of every $100 spent. The trillion-dollar compute cycle is here, but holding an absolute monopoly in the most valuable sector on Earth breeds incredibly well-funded enemies. Over half of Nvidia's data center revenue flows from just 4 companies. Clients like Microsoft and Amazon are already designing custom silicon, looking for any possible way to break out of the hardware trap. The geopolitical reality is equally precarious. Export controls have permanently cut off billions in potential Chinese revenue. More critically, the entire production chain relies on a single manufacturing bottleneck at TSMC, where one significant supply disruption would stall the global rollout of AI hardware. Even the software moat has vulnerabilities. Competitor platforms are slowly improving, and a new generation of cloud developers may soon be able to train models without ever needing to interact with CUDA directly. Jensen Huang survived 1997 by looking 15 years into the future and absorbing immense short-term pain to build the exact infrastructure the world would eventually need. But as AI integration integrates into every business and government on the planet, we have to ask what happens to the global tech economy when the singular foundation holding it all up begins to fracture.